Oh, where did I? Maybe.
Yeah. Right. Sadly. She said it's saved me a seat. How about you? Yeah. Ready for spring. It's still daylight and light. You gotta look. It's a little bit lighter now.
So he's like a.
So what is
Yeah, he was like checking the. To lose like.
Yeah. 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 Doesn't it just smell like
Yeah, I'm gonna be here now. And he doesn't know. Well, he knows what's going on. He doesn't know what's going on. We're just gonna show up. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that would be a.
Maybe. Yes, no. Change. Did you think of that? You got your dad?
Yes, I know. I don't want to. Our student. She's right there. She's right there.
How are you? I'm Missy.
Are you signing up? Brother? Is that what you're doing? Right.
Oh,
It's an interesting combination.
Sure, I have a couple of those.
I would think like options.
Yeah. That's all.
How was your day?
Yeah, she's been earlier in the fall, she was dividing. And then there's one girl. So thought we were fighting. I haven't, but then they were.
First year.
Like, oh, no, I was like. I'm like, I don't know how you feel. I was like.
Lord, yeah, Lord.
Carol, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I read it back. I'm like, I need this stuff. I need a shirt. I need a shirt. No, it's shirt. They're right next to it. I can do it.
Right? Let's start, there's no need to hurry.
No, they're meeting. That's not.
She gets so good.
I was like, I know. Like, it's delivered, done it one.
Did I?
Like, I was talking about the exact thing and- But it. But it's.
I was like, what?
I didn't write on my calendar all week.
I get distracted.
Oh.
I get it now.
We're making it. I'm pushed over organs and like you're not dead. And then they go back. Like, they made. The major person here. He pushes it out, he pushes it out, he pushes it down, he pushes it out. When I was pregnant with Anna, I was at that. And I. Share. Yeah, first like that. She's a dad. Yeah. That's right. Well, it's like, right now, at the gym, that's pretty cool. It's my thing. Yeah, I started going to like CBS Kimber, like she loved this. You know, I'm not gonna she was kidding. I got all this. And then he's getting all the like books and songs. Probably needs their melody, but it's different sound. I thought my there's the crew. Then they can be still. Yeah. I was like, but I was looking around, like, everything's fine. I was like, you need some. Humor. Like 5 where. I know I will run. Somebody of your own shorts. I would never know.
Yeah, but that's funny. I know. So you're.
Because there was no place that. On the table by. Yeah. Yeah.
If there's anybody here that wants to speak during the meeting, okay. Couple people have signed, if anybody else. That wants to speak.
Well, that's kind of the thing.
Anybody want to speak? There's a sign-up sheet over here. Did you guys want to speak? Hello, Linda? For either Ron, did you either one of you want to speak? Okay. All right, with that, we'll call the meeting to order with a roll call vote.
Rottenhouse,
Here.
Fox,
Here.
Crow,
Here.
Mac. Kirkland,
Here. A reading of the district mission vision statement by Director Berkland. Oh, here comes that.
Our mission, to challenge all students to achieve their full potential through engaging, responsive educational experiences that inspire innovation, critical thinking, and collaboration. Our vision, to develop learners who are competent, compassionate problem solvers. Our operating principles, information for one is information for all, no surprises, verify facts, think ahead, disagree, explain your thinking, and then commit.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda. Are there any amendments?
yeah, one amendment, you had Carleen Sigmund to the resignation list, effective January 14th, so Friday.
Any other additions or corrections to the?
I'm going to amendment to the public comment policy, but should I do that now or wait till we get to the public comment?
You can do that during the motion.
Yeah. 13, 50.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Pass. Approval of minutes.
A motion to approve the minutes.
A second. Been moved and seconded to approve the board minutes as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Okay, motion passes 5-0. This time we will welcome visitors for public comment. Sean, would you or Lacey want to speak tonight? If you did, okay, thank you. As we begin our agenda tonight, let me explain our process for public comment. On behalf of the board members, I invite any member of the audience to approach the microphone with comments about items of interest or concern. Please begin by stating your name and contact information, though you don't have to do that because we added it to the sheet. That's just so we can contact you if we have questions about anything you said. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. You're going to be the timer. And so we can keep the meeting moving in a timely fashion and allow others an opportunity to speak, as well as allowing the board to complete the agenda in a timely manner. Comments from the public are not limited to items or topics on tonight's agenda, but they are limited to matters within the board's authority. Please understand that we as a board cannot discuss items not already on the agenda. Iowa Sunshine Law prohibits us from having the discussion without the proper notice to all of the school district community that the issue would be discussed at tonight's board meeting. Also, please remember you are making comments in a public meeting. Should you make comments that the subject of the comments considers to be inflammatory or libelous, you as an individual may be subject to legal action brought by the subject of your comments. Thank you for your support of our school district. And so the first person up here is Bryce Howard. Is that right? Did I say it correctly?
Grace.
Grace?
Nope.
Sorry.
I'm just responding to you.
Oh, yeah, there's the mic. Is it?
Somebody challenging me on the mic? Okay.
Right there, Linda on the side.
Somebody record.
I think it's all right. Just start remember. Okay, so as you said, my name is Bryce Howard. I'm a senior here at the Charlotte City High School. And I didn't get the opportunity to talk last time, but over the past couple of weeks, I've taken the opportunity to talk to a few other members of the school district who know a little bit more than I do about what is going on. And there were some very interesting questions that and information that I found as I was going. First of all, was that for the previous fiscal school year, we ended with $900,000 in excess. So my question is, why do we need to find $750,000 now? Where did that money go? And even if there's a logical explanation, I don't know. So I would like that publicly shared. And I know that's been claimed that some of the money lost is from loss of students. But then that also poses another question, where did those students go and why did they leave? These are important questions to address as we move forward with trying to rectify the budget. Because if we don't figure out why students are leaving, then it will continue to happen. And if we don't address it, then we will continue to bleed students and money from our school district. And part of that is with the, I know it will continue to happen if we move forward and cut any of some of the performing arts teachers. I got the opportunity to talk to Mr. Gassman and Mr. Sternman and figured out they spend their full weeks giving private lessons to, or personal lessons to students. And they don't even have the time already to get in all the students. So if their duties were expanded, these programs would suffer further as students would get less time on their own to improve themselves. As we continue, I know that in order to make the best decisions possible, we need to try to make decisions that will help keep teachers in classrooms. And to do that, I know, and has been recommended by other business members at the last meeting, that the first option is to look at and cut administration. And I know that that is a difficult decision, being that you guys are a part of administration, but I feel that it would be best for the students. I think we could start with the new position that was hired this year after the school already knew that there was going to be the possibility of financial issues. We hired a new curriculum director with a pay of, I've been told, $100,000. What? Anyway. And so I feel that this would be a good place to start. I know that there are community members who are willing to help, but we need communication from the board to do so. And I know that I, as well, am willing to help as much as I can. So I would like the opportunity, if possible, to talk to each of you to help try and work towards a decision that would be best for the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Horn.
Okay, can you guys hear me okay? Okay. My name is Missy Freund, parent and former school board member. I'm addressing you publicly tonight as to what I can only describe as the dysfunctionality of this board that has left me feeling very disappointed in who we have elected to represent this community. I'm also speaking publicly to educate those who may not understand how the board typically has handled things in the past. We all know what a mess last meeting was in December, which could have been avoided had a proper process been followed, and full transparency had been key. Here we are again tonight with a lack of process and transparency with another item on the agenda. When I served on the board, I was part of the policy committee. Every agenda lists the various committees that board members are assigned to for that year, each committee having 2 board members, so their committee meetings are not considered a public meeting. And when those committees have met, they give an update at the board table. The policy committee is specifically tasked with meeting to discuss policy changes, whether that is just an annual review of a certain series of policy or something timely that needs to be addressed. The committee then brings those changes and recommendations to the board during a regular meeting to discuss. Typically, those policy changes are discussed in one meeting, then they're voted on after a second reading at the following regular meeting. You can clearly see that the policy committee has not met recently, or tonight, Director Mack would be giving us an update. However, there are policy changes being recommended tonight and a recommendation to waive a second reading so those changes take effect immediately. So my question is, who recommended those changes? Why did the policy committee not meet to discuss those changes ahead of time? And why is the second reading being waived? Just like the proposed cuts, these policy changes are being pushed through quickly with little to no discussion and processes not being followed. I am appalled at how this board is choosing to handle things. I am urging you to change now, or you will continue to lose the very little community support that you have left. And if you choose not to change, I urge you to step down so that we can put community members in place who will do the job they were elected to do properly and openly. I will remind you, the board is elected as community representatives to not only represent the needs of the students in the school district, but also to represent the concerns of your citizens. And the superintendent reports to all of you, not the other way around. The other thing that I also printed off and read through as I prepared these comments for tonight are the IASB standards for effective school boards. Anybody can look this up online, and I would urge all of you to go back and revisit these. Talks a lot about what I just talked about, transparency being key. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy, Simon.
So I may not be able to see that because I have cataracts, and so I may not be able to see the numbers that you have up there. So I'd have two things that are on the agenda. I didn't know what she was going to talk about, but yes, when I saw these two policies appear on the agenda, and then I looked at the committee meeting reports, and there was nothing from the policy committee that told me that that committee had not met. And so I do not know where these policies came from all of a sudden. And then I guess my most important thing that I want to talk about is Colleen Sickman. Because when this was all happening, all of a sudden we're going after Project Rise, which has been here since 2018. She has been one of the mainstays of this particular project. So I contacted her and I said, why are they going after you? It certainly cannot be because of your salary. She's an hourly paid employee. She's not paid anywhere near what the teachers are paid. And so she told me, I think it's because we go and we're not afraid to talk to our administrators, and we're not afraid to stand up for our students. So then she said to me, I want you to know that I have never met Dr. Lundquist or been introduced to Dr. Lundquist. This is what she told me. And so I thought, if you really know what's going on, surely you would have talked to her. And so I was very sad when I heard last Friday that she had turned in her resignation. And it isn't about me, and it isn't about you. All these things are about our students and everything that's happened. So please, we're just asking you to be more transparent and talk about things at the board table. And please do not stop the public for coming to talk about things.
Thank you. Superintendent report.
So let's switch gears on what's going well. January 9th, a few announcements here. I did attend the Charles City CAPS. And as you know, that stands for Center for Advanced Professional Studies Celebration Day. It was held December 16th at Zoetis, where participating students, who we refer to in this program as associates, concluded their semester in the program by summarizing their project-based learning experiences. The special education team at the high school have worked collaboratively to adjust both teacher and student schedules to better accommodate student needs. These changes were the result of a thorough review of current data, goals, and teacher qualifications, which resulted in a new and improved delivery model. Data will be collected to determine impact, and additional adjustments will be made as warranted. And this work was led by Dr. Schilling, our Director of Academic Services. The pilot of the K-4 Numbers Corners routine has been implemented as a whole class routine with increased student engagement. Additional information on this innovation and future application will be determined in the coming weeks. But I will tell you, initial findings indicate that it is showing promise. The Teacher Leader and Compensation Team, we call them TLC, consists of more than a dozen teacher representatives, and it continues to meet for the purpose of evaluating our current program and its impact. A recommendation will be forthcoming regarding how we might best meet the district needs in 2023 and 2024. And as a reminder, those are categorical funds and have some specific Needs they can fill, but very important needs nevertheless. The plans to move second grade from Washington to Lincoln Elementary to provide more effective and equitable service to students and staff are on track. The principals at both schools have engaged staff in the process and have begun open parent information meetings. Aspects of the change under consideration include technology, accessibility issues, and the overall coordination for the move. After extensive communication with the public, board members, and staff, the senior leadership team is no longer in support of the reduction of 2 music teachers and will request this option be removed from the agenda on January 23rd. The team is prepared to further discuss this topic at the board work session scheduled for January 17th. Finally, as a point of clarification, public comment is and has always been welcome at every board meeting. Work sessions, on the other hand, are opportunities for the board to plan, brainstorm, or engage in thoughtful discussion. No action takes place during work sessions, and thus public comment is not included as part of the agenda. The district's policies on both of these practices align with Iowa code and guidance by the Iowa Association of School Boards. That's it for this month.
Thank you, Ann. Are there any questions or comments?
And what is this, the K4 numbers corner?
Yes, it's a routine, and I may turn to Dr. Schilling to give you some more up close and personal details on that, but it's a routine that's designed to engage students more actively. Jen, do you have a second to come to the front of the room and just a few details for Dr. Schroeder?
Number corners is an instructional routine that we are implementing on a pilot basis at a few of our K4 classrooms to build number sense, because that's an area we are lacking in, and we are looking at new curriculum and narrowing down that pilot even in the next few days. And number corners is part of a Bridges curriculum we're looking at K5. And would be part of that curriculum, but it's also separate and can be used with any other curriculum. But it builds number relationships, some of the patterning types of things that align to the core standards that our students, that's not as heavily integrated into the current math curriculum that we're using. And it also encourages, supports teachers and students in discourse, which really helps students retain the understanding that they're working.
What kind of materials do the kids in those grades use? Is it textbooks? Or what is the instructional material? How's that?
In regards to number corners or overall?
Well, first of all, this one. Yeah,
Number corners, there is a student workbook that goes with that, because there are, it'll include your basic computation, fluency types of skills and reasonings that go with that. But there's also patterning, some of the other domains within the math content standards that go with that. It would be, and so that would be part of number corners. Okay. To give you a visual of what it looks like in the classroom, I mean, we take students and put them on the carpet, and it's more of a discussion. And they look at patterns within the calendar, or if it's, for example, a geometric topic they're talking about, they'll have visuals and those types of things. A lot of patterning within that number corners, but it's a discussion they have from 15 to 20 minutes at the beginning of math class, most often at the beginning of math class, but it can be done at any point in the day. Okay.
This is for the math part of our curriculum.
Correct.
And
Correct.
so I assume at the end of each grade, there's a certain accomplishments that.
Correct.
children
Yes,
did.
yes. Number corners is aligned to the grade level standards. And there's actual assessments that go along with number corners that you can assess students month to month. There's a month theme. There's a calendar. It's a whole little mini curriculum in itself.
So what were we lacking?
I would say it's the number sense piece. Yeah, when I talk about number sense, I mean like students being able to use 5 and 10 as benchmark numbers. Or students being able to what's called supertize, know when you roll a dice and see 5, it's 5. without having to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It helps build the fluency aspect, which within our curriculum, not that they don't have fluency, but it's probably an area that we can support a little bit better as compared to what they're using with the investigations.
So it'd be like in language, recognizing the alphabet and basic words.
Correct, yeah.
So this is in addition to what they already use.
And it is a pilot at this point, correct? It is in addition to what they already use. Currently, they're using investigations, which has been in place probably about 6, 7 years. So that was one of the first assignments I was tasked with as curriculum director, as we need to update that. And it's more of a problem-based curriculum, which is a kind of a tough shift for teachers if they haven't been provided professional learning. We're seeing, I mean, there's been some success, but there's things that we can improve on. So we're looking at various curriculums along with reviewing the investigations curriculum we're currently using as well.
Thanks.
Just a quick question on the CAPS program. That's twice a year, right? Once in December and once in May.
Yes, that's my semester.
Would you guys speak up when you're asking your questions, please? It's hard to hear.
Okay. Yeah, we'll be really loud. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Got it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So the question I asked was about the CAPS program, if it's once or twice a year, and it's twice, once in December and once in May.
Yes, at the end of each semester.
Thank you.
But it could be the same people, could be, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, right?
Right, correct. And we are just now launching our second inaugural semester, and we're excited about the partnership, and we'll have some additional information on it fairly soon for you if that's of interest. Get a report on that.
Dr. Lundquist, real quick, if you can tell me what this teacher leadership and compensation team, what's their role?
This is categorical funds that are directed specifically from the State Department to schools with the design that it builds teacher leadership or leadership opportunity among our current teaching staff. So for example, if you have a teacher that aspires either to a leadership position or who has excelled in terms of their knowledge, understanding, preparation in some way, and then they can support others and in their teaching skill development and improvement. So it might look like a teaching coach. It might also look like a lead teacher who might help the principal with some support for students and or teachers in some aspect or another. It's currently under review by this team, and it's a team of our teacher leaders that are currently employed here because we believe they understand best what the needs are. And then they will design a proposal that we can bring to you for approval. And the stipends then that are provided by the State Department augment the salaries that we already pay to our staff. So it's quite a nice savings. And if we don't use the money, we have to give it back. It's specific just to these kinds of things. And if you like, I can schedule a more detailed summary of that with Dr. Schilling, our academic services director, at one of our next meetings.
Is the ultimate purpose of these teachers to help improve the teaching? How long have we been using that?
We have to say 18, 17 or 18 school year.
In that period of time, have we noticed?
Some improvement. In the past, data on the extent to which those programs had impact had not been collected. Jennifer Schilling is working on that now because it's important with any implementation that we also include a program evaluation. So we determine what will be the measures of the indicators that will show the extent to which the program is having the desired effect. This team is working with her on that. It has not been collected in the past, but we're hopeful that we can collect it in the future. We will have some minimal bit of data to guide us, but not what you would typically expect for a program like this. But again, that's something she and her team are working on.
I understand the teacher leadership part of that, but what is the compensation? Why is that included in there? What do they have to do
That's a
with that?
State Department funding source.
Oh, it's just called teacher leadership and compensation, but they don't have any role in their compensation.
No, that's the State Department's name for the program.
State grant,
State grant.
not every school gets based on enrollment, and there's a big calculation that goes into it.
So how much each district gets.
And it can only be used for that.
Yes, it's very specific. There is a little bit of leeway in it, but it's fairly specific to teacher leadership opportunities.
Is it all grades K through 12?
It can be, yes. Currently in our system, it is. Every school district that I'm aware of does it a little bit different.
Mhm.
But again, we count on the team of teacher leaders, about a dozen, to guide Dr. Schilling in that work.
Who chooses the teacher leaders? Is that principals, you?
There's a hiring process. We'll have an interview and then you get selected. At least.
Okay, we'll move on to the board recognition of outstanding employee performance. Charles City Community School District will be fostering the theme of what's going well in the school year 2022-23. Each month, the board will recognize employees who have been nominated by their peers for going above and beyond to exemplify Charles City Community Schools' vision, mission, and values. And this month, we have the following teachers. Janice. Janice, do you want to come forward? Sure. Tell me how to say that.
Yeah, Tanisha.
Catherine, do you want to read it?
Sure. She has been meeting with kids after school via video chat to help with math. I saw a student of hers after school with this going. So great to see teachers caring about their students' needs. Somebody also said Jody and Janisha have gone above and beyond by taking on a larger caseload of our special education students. They saw a need of meeting our students' educational needs and have sacrificed their time to meet those needs. They have supported their colleagues with students in the general education classroom, as well as the special education teammates. They both serve the district on extra committees to make sure our district stays top of the line. We are blessed to have them.
Ray Cole here.
Nope.
Should we read it anyway?
Yes.
Ray is willing to offer coverage. She's the counselor at the middle school, by the way. Ray is willing to offer coverage for colleagues when a sub is not available and does this with great attitude. His help is greatly appreciated. Ray also addresses concerns of students and parents timely and communicates with the middle school team so everyone is supporting students in the best way possible. Thank you, Ray.
We're recording it.
Janine's not here. Okay. Janine enjoys helping everyone in our building. Her desk can be heaped with tasks and she will still openly takes on more. She is giving and has a deep passion for the happiness and wellness of all. She is a trooper. From copying to answering phone calls and shoveling snow to passing out ice packs, she is most deserving of this recognition.
Josh Dean, the innovative campus teacher. Josh can always see the positive in a student and understands what motivates them. He also provides them support by holding them to standards of actions and conduct. He continually reaches out to students to help them continue their education and work towards graduation. Most importantly, he helps students with their life skills of how to interact in an adult manner and how to balance school and work with family and emotional needs.
Let's read the last one. Okay.
Shirley Fitzgerald, support staff. Is she here? Shirley talks to kids and also with the teachers. She's kind and has fun with them all. She works very hard at her job and she covers for me when I'm not here and when I'm driving the bus. Shirley never complains at all. She's a very hard worker and I'm glad she's at Lincoln. I really can't think of a more deserving person to get this honor.
Okay, the next one, thank you to all these people and for going above and beyond our school district.
Pat, I just wanted to note, you skipped agenda item 7.
Because there wasn't anything.
Normally we would say that.
Oh, sorry. Northeast Iowa Conference Mediation Agreement, Dana?
Just so you guys know, there are a lot of events going on today, so if I bug out of here after this, I encourage you all to go to Comet Gym and watch our boys play some basketball. So, Pat, Dr. Lundquist, and myself met with our conference schools, with their activities directors and superintendents, as well as a couple of their board members. And it was determined that there would be an agreement in place that Waverly Shell Rock would continue in our conference one more year, so through the 23-24 school year. I think, and you guys all have this, correct? Okay, so there were some key points that I'll read out loud for anybody that doesn't. Waverly Shell Rock will remain a member of the conference for the 23-24 school year. Waverly Shell Rock's membership in the conference will end at the close of the 23-24 school year. Waverly Shell Rock agrees that it will not take any action that seeks to extend its membership in the NEIC when its membership ceases at the end of the 23-24 school year. Other than conference championship events, new members of the NEIC will not be required to compete against Waverly Shell Rock. And this agreement will become effective upon ratification by the Waverly Shell Rock Board of Education and a majority of the boards of the conference member districts. So that's where you guys come into play as to whether you want to approve this and have Charles City's name as part of this agreement.
Can I ask you a question about point?
Second to last one.
Yeah, so does that just mean for the 23-24 school year?
That the other, are you talking about other than conference championship events? Correct, because that's the only way that a school would be added to the conference. If a school were to get added to the NEIC conference, it would be for the 23-24 year, because this year has already started, obviously. But one of the pieces of feedback that the conference has received is that there might be some reasoning for other schools to not want to join our conference because of having to play them. Whether that is true or not, I mean, that's for everyone to make their own decision. So what this would do is it would prevent another school from having to play them if they did not want to, except for situations like conference track or conference golf, things where you would the entire conference would be together for that competition.
Would also be like basketball tournaments to get to state.
Well,
If
that would be
districted
different because
that
that's
way.
that, yeah. So then they would have to play them because that's state ran. However, basketball games or individual events, individual competitions, they would not be required to play them.
How many are in our district? How many schools?
How many schools we have? Waukon, Crestwood, New Hampton, Waverly, ourselves, and Decorah. So we have 6.
So the inclusion of that year, then we'll have 5.
Correct. And anything less than that would not be a conference. If it could go either way, you guys could choose to approve it and see what the majority of the other boards do.
You could choose to not approve it if you would like, and see if others want to leave our conference.
So do you anticipate other schools would want to join in this 24-25 school year?
In the 24-25, yes. Not necessarily in the 23-24. I really wouldn't predict that one.
Based on what?
Based on past information from 3 school districts that are located very close to us, all of whom were interested in joining the conference, none of whom were willing to join as long as Waverly were a part of it. The other danger is it 2 or 3 of our current conference schools, Dana, are being courted, if you will, by neighboring conferences. And our fear is if we lose that critical number of 5, which is our minimum, that the NEIC will cease to exist. And it seemed like when the previous years past, when this first came up, most recently, middle of last year, that the board felt strongly we should pursue Waverly leaving, and Waverly was willing to leave because they understand the nature of the challenge of this conference in its current state.
And in fact, we voted that way last.
Yes, the board voted that way about 1 year ago. This is follow-up to extensive mediation from the State Department. It was a very lengthy meeting and had the support of Dana, myself, board president Pat, and every other member at the table.
So there was the head of the boys union, girls union, and 2 mediators who were not affiliated with either one that were there.
Has Waverly School District voted on their part of this yet?
Yes,
Did they get it
Signed
done?
it, it's down.
it's
They signed it and then it has to go to their board.
Has their
Yes.
board voted on it
Yeah.
yet?
Tonight, is that what it is? Okay.
And I don't know if you'll know this or not, because you weren't in a position. Do we know how, in last year's vote, how the other districts voted? Whether or not they voted to keep or,
they were all in favor of this recommendation.
And a year ago, they were all in favor of Waverly leaving, except of course Waverly.
And now,
and at that time, there was no 2023-24 school year, it was just a plan.
right. And so this is the State Department, the mediation by the athletic unions attempt to try and bring some closure to the issue.
And so when it was voted on last year was for the end of the 22-23 school year, this year. Waverly did reach out to 2 different conferences who refused to accept them into their conference. So that's why there was a mediation to let them stay in our conference for 1 more year so that they had competition
Did they both refuse, or did Waverly not want to vote?
Yes, I think the one Waverly wanted to go to, and I can look to Brian for, there was one that accepted, was eager to have Waverly. That wasn't the one they wanted, the one they really wanted.
But yeah, and they were willing to take them on if they could have all of their sports.
Right.
And
they
there
wanted
was,
to pull out.
and there was one sport that they wanted to compete against heavier competition. So it was conditional.
Before you leave, I think we should really acknowledge, this is something that's been going on for years. We've had 3 different athletic directors, activities directors working on this. And you accomplished something that we couldn't get done before, so congratulations.
I don't know if it's accomplished. But I would caution this too, like, Waverly scores at the bottom of our sportsmanship. They do. And I'm gonna caution this with the public and myself and all of us at the board. We are second to bottom because of our actions in some situations, not allowing, certain things to happen that just require us sometimes to just sit and listen and take it in, to cheer positively, to be at events and be a great student and cheering section and supportive of our students, whether that is in any fine arts program or athletic event or just generally in the classroom. So when and if Waverly leaves, we will then be at the bottom unless something changes. And that comes from all of us here at the school, as well as at home and teaching those skills.
I was gonna mention this later, but can I mention it now? I did get a text message from the Decorah board president right before Christmas about, and I assume you were kind of responsible for this, but I'm not sure. Where the 7th grade, one of their board members had a 7th grader playing basketball, and they came over here and they had snacks and they had notes of encouragement for the game and things like that. And anyway, he texted me and said, class act. I commend you for this and keep going forward. So.
And Eric Hoper has taken that on with his leadership class. And so like even today, when we had a middle school game over there, they're always greeted with like a little baggie of snacks. And I don't know if any of you have ever had a middle schooler, but they are always hungry. So, you know, it's very cute. It's very nice.
And Dana, I know you don't want to blow your own horn, so I'm going to give a kudos to you in addition to what Director Mack mentioned in Dana's improvement plan, because all of our administrators have continuous improvement plans. Sportsmanship is key. It's targeted. She has specific action that she's taking. So I'm really confident if we keep up work in that culture and climate area, sportsmanship, we're going to see some positive change in the next several months, if not year.
I can do this, then you can easily do that, because that's working with middle school, right? That's easy.
Right. I would encourage all of you, even as board members, to come to the game, the basketball games on Friday, January 20th. It is against Waverly. It is also packed the gym night. And I would love to see all of you guys there to help support me in positive sportsmanship and supporting our athletes and our adult coaches, our referees that come in. Everybody knows that we're shorthanded on those. Friday, January 20th. It is against Waverly. And I will tell you publicly that we will be, there will be people watching to see how our sportsmanship and how our student section as well as their student section behaves because of prior conflict.
Point taken.
Thank you for what you've been doing. So, what do you guys think about this?
I don't think
You
it's
go.
a good idea to watch us.
Just have to start the national anthem and then I can come back.
What, David?
I guess I don't think that this is a good way to solve the problem of sportsmanship. I think that it's all the problem with sportsmanship.
I don't think that's what this was about when I was at the meeting. That's not what they talked about as the number one issue. The number one issue is that Waverly is so much larger than the other schools in the conference. That was the main, and that's what the people coming in say, or, you know, that could possibly come into. It was about they're like twice as big as most school districts.
Do you need a motion?
Yes.
So we can discuss it. I'll make a motion to approve the mediation agreement as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the mediation agreement as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion passes 4-1. Bus inspection update from Jerry. Thank you, Dana.
All right, well, Evan and Ann asked me to come and just give an update on bus inspection. We get that done twice a year. It's usually in March and October, but our inspector fell on some ice and broke some bones, so it got delayed back. So we actually have got our inspection way off right now. But anyway, just want to share some good positive news going on with things that are happening at the transportation department. They're inspected biannually, like I've already mentioned. Our last one was Wednesday, January 4th. Had another very good inspection. The one that was done before that, we had 0 issues with our buses, and unheard of. I've never, ever seen anything in the district that had 0, and we had 0. Especially when you look at the age of our fleet, our oldest bus is 2004, and our newest bus is 2020, and the average age of our fleet is 2010. So when you look at the age and what they go through and the gravel roads and over the roads, pretty impressive by what our mechanics doing to keep our fleet running and keep running in a safe manner. Out of 27 vehicles that got inspected, and that's school buses, and then also our Suburbans, our vans, and that we transport students either to special ed things or extracurricular activities. Everything that hauls students now, and that changed about 2 years ago, has to have a state inspection on it. And we had 2 issues this time out of 27. One was on bus 11, which is our 2006 bus. And the front crossing gate got froze to the bus, the front of the bus, and it burned out the motor. And it happened that morning on route because they go on route and the inspection's right after route. And then bus 20, there's 3 underseat heaters in every bus. Bus 20 is a 2009, and the rear underseat heater, the motor was burnt out in that. So that's the only 2 issues we had in 27 vehicles. So just wanted to Kurt's horn a little bit about all the impressive work he does there, and Stan Gaston with keeping all of that update. Those 2 run that, and they do an awesome job. So that's just wanted to throw a little out to them, and if anyone ever wants to see the fleet and go for a tour with me, feel free. I love showing that off and everything that we do. So that's what we got on that. So that was just an update.
Thank you, don't go very far.
Nope, I got my other packet right here.
Seal coat metal roof bids.
In the district, probably 75% of our roofs are a rubber sloped roof. The other 25% is a metal roof. And those were put on, so everything that's metal on this building is the 3 circles, and everything from the circles this way is all a metal sloped, slightly sloped roof. It looks just like the tin that would be on the side of a building, has the ribs, has joints where they connect with each other. They've been on for about 22 years, I think it is. And so it's time that they definitely need to be resealed. So we've been trying to do that in our department, a little section each year, but you can't keep up with that. So we found 2 different companies that do that. One is AF Coatings, the other one's M&F Roofing and Coatings, and gave us a bid on 3 different sections here at the high school. So everything that's from the circles this way, if you walk the hallways, you'll see there's a lot of stained tiles on this end. So this is the end that needs to be done before the circles need to be done. The circles have more slope to them, so they're holding up a little better. What this will give us, what they will do is they'll power wash all the rust or any cleaner. It's a rust off cleaner, power wash that onto it. Then they prime the roof using a rust inhibiting metal primer. They caulk every fastener head and every joint. They reinforce all seams with 2.5 inches of fabric, and then they'll apply a white seal coat over all that. What that will give us is a 20-year leak-free roof for 20 years. So the warranty, that's the longest warranty I've ever seen on a reseal coat. So we will get a 20-year warranty. So that'll get well past the time I'm here yet. So we'll go from there. So what we have is 3 sections. What is the north side section, which is what I call everything from it's just past the library this way is a section because there's a good break point there. The south section, which is from the library to that small section, there's one very small section right where the bathrooms are. And then where the roof patch is, that's the small section. AF Coatings was a low bid on all of them. Total their bid was $84,144.96, which was about $5,000 under budget. So.
Sure, it looks like this is the low bids around $170,000. When you add them all up.
Nope, 84,000.
Oh, the total cost, excuse me.
Yeah,
Sorry, thank you. So
84,000.
looking at that 84,000, if we are, if we do any high school renovation projects, how will that play into it?
This, right now, everything we look at that's doing, for high school renovation, nothing's gonna be done from the north this way, other than putting some air handlers on the roof. So when we're doing, we already have the air handlers there, it's replacing those, so the curbing's already to the air handlers. So there won't be any issues. There's a section, a flat roof section that needs to be done. We're over what currently like where the offices are there, that section. We're waiting on that one for another year or two, and then that will be the last one that we have to do on the high school building. The high school building then will be 100% new roofs, so we'll have warranty on the roofs for about another 18 years after we get that section done.
And then the two companies, A&F and M&M,
Mhm.
do you have experience with them? Do you have references from them?
Yep, they gave me references, 5 references, each one of school districts they've done in the area.
Are they local companies?
The one is, the one that got it is from Garwin, Iowa, and the other one, I think, if I remember right, I don't have that in back in that packet, but it's southeastern Iowa. It's a real specialty company. It's not like the rubber roof where there's quite a few of them around.
Right, yeah,
It's a real specialized companies to do that.
great, thank you.
This is right here next to your capital allotment, right?
Yep, that was
24.
approved. That was part of this next year's budget, so it'll happen this summer if it's approved. And it was approved for all of my couple projects. I think it was about about 5 or 6 months ago, we went through that project, so.
Gary, do you know if this was approved? Would it occur during the summer months when school's not in session, or would that be
Yep.
disruptive?
All roofing projects, when we put our specs out, they cannot start till the last day of school, and they have to be completed before the first day of school. And that's how we try to do most of our pebble projects that involve anything with the school. Once in a while, we had a roof over at Washington about 3 years ago where the material was so hard to get that we had to go into probably about almost into the end of October when they finally got that done. But other than that, they've been done. The roofs for Washington and over the current weight room here that was approved a couple months ago. We actually went ahead and ordered the material and we're going to pay for that. They're sending us the invoice that you guys approved about a couple months ago. If we didn't do that, we wouldn't have had the material here for this summer. So that's what we're doing. We're getting the material in advance. Usually these bids, I probably wouldn't come to the board till probably about a month before is what I always used to do. You can't do that anymore because if you don't, you're never going to get them. For example, our 2 buses that we ordered quite a while ago, they're supposed to be here in August and September. Now it's March and April. So we still haven't got those 2. That's what's happening, and it's happening for everything. So.
I'll make a motion to approve Director of Operations Jerry Mitchell to use the low bid from AF Coatings totaling $84,144.96. And to pay this out of the 2023-24 school year budget, which begins July 1st, 2023.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Director of Operations Jerry Mitchell to use the low bid from AF Coatings totaling $84,144.96 and to pay this out of the 2023-24 school year budget, which begins July 1st, 2023. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion passes 5-0. Middle school mid-year update.
Awesome. Hey guys, I have some handouts. It's the flow charts that I use for keeping myself organized on my strategic plan. Pretty interesting for you. All right, so this is the strategic plan. It's a mid-year update. It's also like the full year overlay of stuff that we did. We started planning this back last year in like April, knowing that we were at the middle school. This has been part of a 3-year plan. Year 1 for me was a lot of just observing and listening and making fine adjustments. Year 2 was starting to move on some things. We're now year 3 and year 4. So what you're seeing are some of the results and some of the later steps in here. Next slide. So my strategic plan doesn't involve just the leadership, it involves all of our teacher leaders as well. So our content PLC facilitators, that's every single content, science, social studies, math, reading and writing, we're all part of this. Our grade level PLC facilitators. So overall, with our instructional coaches, the associate principal and myself, there's 13 people on our leadership team that put this together. And then our SEL leadership team, that's all of our span of care leaders, which Janice is part of, and our instructional coaches, school counselors, associate principal, and the social worker, myself, are part of that. There are components of this plan that's in there. Next slide. So there's 3 goal areas. 2 of them are very similar. Goal 2 and goal 3 are very similar. Goal 1, this is like the meat and potatoes. This is the stuff that we are compared to other schools across the state. This is the stuff that our school report card is really comprised of. And if we didn't address this, we wouldn't be doing our job. So we feel like the main goal, our main goal at Charles Middle School is just to ensure academic growth across all grade levels by improving instructional alignment and responsive teaching as measured by our ISAST and then our MAP test. So we take the MAP test twice. So it's kind of our beginning of the year and then our dipstick mid-year to tell if we're growing or not. And it really is a nice indicator for our teachers and our students to say, is it working or not? So we can make some mid-game adjustments. Prior to me being here, we did not take the MAP assessment. So it was really like kind of hope and pray that things turn out at the end. And so this has been a really nice thing to have that. Our goal 2 is to increase positive perception of both students and staff as measured by our culture and climate surveys and our conditions for learning. The conditions of learning is about 20% of our school report card. So how our students feel about having the middle school be a safe place where they can learn and they're respected and they're recognized, that's a big part of our school report card. And if we didn't address that, and to be honest, I kind of got a gut punch this year when we saw our conditions of learning survey results came in and they were down a little bit. Our learning was up, but our conditions of learning were down. And we just knew immediately that we had to address that. And I had some ideas in my pocket that we've done that I think are working. And then goal 3, this is like the fun stuff that I get really kind of geeked out about. And that's to increase student and parent engagement at the middle school by measuring our attendance during presentations and conferences. We know that this has to be a community partnership with our parents in order to make this fully the best it could be. And we think when we marry goal 1 with student achievement and really great standards and the things that we're doing with projects that the students are really proud of, and we bring the parents in, like we're really going to hit the best of both worlds. So goal 1, this is what we have done so far. So we've created professional development cycles to prepare teachers for the work in their PLCs. PLCs are professional learning communities, and that's where all of the collaboration is being done with our content and grade level teachers to improve their practices, to look at student results, to look at student data, and to make really good decisions. The big thing, I think one of the biggest things is we've aligned all teaching and learning to the standards. We have some amazing teachers in our district and really great student engagement, but if we're not teaching the right what, we're going to miss the mark on our state assessments. So we have to make sure we're zeroed in on the correct what in order to make sure that all of the other stuff is aligned. So I feel very comfortable, and when I'm in every one of our classrooms, I know this is happening right now, which is a huge win. And then we created progressions for all of our units, which so we asked the question, what does proficiency look like on this particular standard? And we had a lot of discussions because what we didn't want to have was grade inflation or teachers telling the story to parents and students that they were crushing it, and then we get to state assessments and they were non-proficient. So we had to make sure we were telling the same story across the board. And I think we've done a great job with that. So what have we planned? We're going to adjust and utilize our learning progressions for all units. So basically, when we give an assessment, we have a learning progression that says this is what not making it looks like, this is what kind of making it looks like, and this is what absolutely proficient looks like. So we're going to adjust and utilize those as we go. We're going to create formative assessments, which means formative and summative. I don't know if you guys are familiar. Formative is like when I give you an assessment like practice, and then I give you feedback. Renee does this every day when she's in lessons with her students. She's giving them, it's a formative assessment, and she's giving them feedback every single day. Our coaches and our music people do this like drinking water. It's super amazing. Our teachers, it's a little bit new to give that feedback all the time and to have it not be punitive. What we do typically, the typical model is teach, assess, put it in the grade book. Next lesson, next unit. So what we're training them to do is to teach, assess, give feedback, reteach, pull the kids that we need to, keep going, reteach, reassess, and always have a really good dipstick kind of feeling about where our students are. So that's formative assessment. We've been really diving in hard on that. And then teacher collaborate on responsive teaching using formative assessments. That means, okay, what do I do when I have 4 students in my classroom that aren't making it? Because if we don't have a plan for that or have collaboration around that, it doesn't do any good to assess. We could get all the data in the world that says we're not making it, but if we don't have a plan to address what do we do next, like, it's just a waste of time. So that we're working on that right now. By the way, all of goal 1 is done during not only our PLCs, but also every one of our PD days. We're bringing in outside consultants and we're utilizing our time and our finances to do that, to make sure that we're all in alignment with our PLCs and in our professional learning days. Goal 2, this is the fun stuff. I geek out about this, and this is all about, like, I want our students and our parents to have a sense of pride when they walk in the building. And I want them to have smiling faces, and I want them to say, Charles City is a really great school for me. And for middle schoolers, they really don't care about academics. I'm just saying, they don't. They really care about the social atmosphere. They care about competing. They care about having like a sense of belonging and a place to be. And if you don't recognize that, then we're going to miss the mark. And we noticed that our conditions of learning survey kind of took a dip. So we doubled down on this positive atmosphere and perception. So what have we done? Big list of really cool stuff. We started doing student and staff celebrations every single week. We started having Comet Proud drawings, which means we're going to catch you doing something good, and then I'm going to call you out in front of all of your peers, 500 students in the gym, and we're just going to celebrate. So come in on some Friday, guys. I really encourage you to do this. We play the music super loud. We get kind of loud and crazy, but there is hardly a meh face in the gym. Everybody is up and cheering, and it is super loud, and it's awesome. And everybody feels energized and like pumped up to keep going. We do whole school celebrations. We celebrate. Hey guys, this sounds really simple. We brought back the honor roll. Like, we celebrate student success. I had a student today. I sat down with him and I said, hey, look, man, you got all A's and you got 2 B's. So you're going to make the B honor roll. And he lit up, and his friends at the lunch table are giving him high fives. Kids care about this stuff and they want to be recognized. We also increased our positive social media, and we set some goals around that. And then we use pictures to tell the story. If you walk into from here to Comet Gym, you'll see those TVs are going on all the time. That is on purpose because we really want to hone in on the positive things that are happening in our school. We want to tell our story, because if we don't, another story is being told. So we have to really double in on that. All right, next slide. What do we have planned? We're going to keep pushing the good news. We're going to keep making personal phone calls. I personally have made about 175 personal positive phone calls this year. I think I made a couple to your family, made a couple to your family. And anytime a student is recognized, I get on the phone and I close the door and I say, the only time anybody can come in here is if it's blood or blues, which means the cops are here or somebody's bleeding out. Otherwise, this is sacred time for me, and I need to make all of these phone calls. Super, super important. And guess what? It gives me all kinds of energy. I love it. I love it. And then we have positive social media posts and positive news articles as much as we possibly can. All right. The key is pay attention to what you pay attention to. There's all kinds of negative stuff. We pay attention to positives. The positives will rise. All right. And then goal 3. This is by the end of the year. So this one we're just getting going right now. We have a team of teachers that and teacher leaders that have created to support learning projects and defensive learning. We want students to stand in front of their work and talk about what they've done and why they did it and the whole process of learning. All grade level teams are developing cross-curricular learning opportunities. Right now we have a project in 8th grade. It's called Data Meets World. And students are collecting data in science class, and then they're gonna learn about rate of change and things like that in their math class. And then they're going to use some artistic talent to create a really cool interactive display for their peers and parents. And then they're going to present that to their peers, their parents, and the public. It's authentic audience, just like I'm doing right now. All right, and then they're gonna, so 2 cross-curricular projects. Next slide. What we're gonna do is all students will have at least 1 defensive learning presentation by the end of the year, and our 8th graders are gonna be doing a capstone exit interview process. It's a really cool process to get them off to high school, and we're working on that right now with portfolios. All right. These are all great goals, but if we don't keep track of how we're doing on a daily or monthly basis, we could get off track. It's called getting caught up in the whirlwind. We do it all the time. And so we have scoreboards at the middle school that help set how do we know we're winning in general on each one of these strategic goals. So Jose, if you'll click on the MS data and scoreboard, that's a link there. And scroll down. Right there. That one, September. Yep, perfect. So this is our scoreboard. We keep track of things like the number of passing grades. We keep track of our MAP scores. We keep track of the number of minors and major student issues that we have. Home communication, crushed it that month, 353 positive notes home or calls. Social media posts. And then we started in October, we started giving student perception surveys. Really quick, 10 questions. Very, very simple, like what do you feel about our school? And we ask those every single month, and then we track that data. You can go on to the next one. Keep going. Basically, we're doing map correlations, map to ISAS. ISAS is how we're scored by the state. So we can accurately predict this on map equals this on ISAS, which we're tracking positively. Keep going. And then October, we did the same thing. And we started seeing some trends. At this time, we had our perception surveys, and we had 83% of our students answer positively to all of our questions, which is really good, I feel. Keep going. Keep going. Give our survey again, and now we're at 87%. So the things are working. So we know that, and we'll have map data coming up here in 2 weeks, and we'll figure out if the stuff from goal 1 and goal 2, or goal 1 is really working too, or how well it's working and how our teachers are doing. Presentations of learning, we have 1 out of 8. The goal is 8. We have 8 presentations of learning, and right now we have 1. So we have our goal, and we know exactly where we are. All right, that's a lot. Sorry, did I do it, Brian? Like close? Well, time. 10 minutes is hard. Any questions for me, guys?
I have a couple, but I can wait. Okay, so one of the last slide, because that's kind of fresh. Jose, can you go back real quick to
the scoreboard?
The December scoreboard, yeah. Thank you so much. So looking at that one, you have a percentage. What's the actual number of students who respond to the perception survey?
100%.
100%.
We get to every student in our homeroom.
So they're required to respond.
Required, absolutely. And I don't collect their name. It's anonymous.
It's like on the computer.
On the computer, yep. 10 questions, automatically populates the data, and then we can look at trends.
So in goal 3,
Yep.
You mentioned, you talked a lot about student engagement, and then part of it is parent engagement.
Yep.
So talk about the parent engagement that you've seen and what the results have been. Is that a growth, a decline, kind of flat?
Getting parent involvement, especially in conferences, takes a drastic decline from 5th grade to 6th grade to 7th grade to 8th grade and then to high school. You guys all agree? And the reason is because we're telling the story. There's data out there all the time for Missy, you know exactly how your kids are doing right now. And all parents who are involved can get on the Google, they can get on PowerSchool, and they can check to see how students are doing academically. What we don't have are put it on the fridge moments from our kids anymore when they get in middle school. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to create put it on the fridge moments where kids are super excited about the work that they do, and they stand in front of their parents and they're smiling and they're happy. And by the way, which parent would ever say no to a kid that says, hey, mom and dad, I'm presenting on the work that I did. I'm super excited. Who's going to say no to that? It's pretty easy to say no to the teacher who sends out the invite because you already know the data, or maybe you feel obligated because you're a good parent. But for the most part, like when we do this, our student engagement our parent engagement goes up. We've seen it. We packed our 8th grade studio when we did this last year, when students were presenting on their, and it was lucky not leading last year. When they presented on their books that they published, people showed up because they're going to show up and see their kids do this work, which that's what we want to create. We want to create more like put it on the fridge moments for our middle schoolers.
And I think this is probably my last question. So you talked about in goal 2, that you handle the fun call. I think you said you did 173.
Yeah,
Who handles the tough ones?
I do too. But that's the balance, right? Because if I only had to do those, like I'm quitting my job. That's an energy suck. And I made 2 tough phone calls today with some kids who made some bad choices, but in the end, they're good kids. They made a bad choice. They're still a good kid. And I want to find opportunities to tell their parents that they're still a good kid with evidence. Like, hey, your kid was nominated by their teachers, and this is what the teacher said about them, blah, blah, blah. Or, hey, your kid got athlete of the week this week. Or your kid's scores went up 22 points and they only should have went up 4. That's amazing. Like, those are the things that we want to tell over and over again. And those are the things that we remember. Yep. Any other questions?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Mr. Jurens.
This is probably a well-needed one that we needed to add at some point in time. In the high school, obviously, technology, it grows, it keeps getting bigger. Cell phones have started to become an issue that we've noticed. Just focus on engagement, focus on getting our kids engaged in what they're doing. We're just noticing cell phones are becoming a little bit more of an issue. Just did some work around it, did a little bit of research about it with Dr. Lundquist. Just kind of came up with the idea of we want to implement a cell phone policy where students are no longer allowed to have their cell phones out. That's what we call a visible policy. Essentially, once the bell rings, all cell phones need to be put away non-visible. The same with headphones. Just because the headphones, obviously they could be listening to something else during that time. We just need to amend the handbook because it is a board approved documents, just to be able to put in there that cell phones are no longer going to be allowed during class times, which would be bell to bell, as well as headphones. We do have a consequences put in place where the first time it's going to be taken by the teacher for the rest of the period. The second time it's going to be brought to the office. That way so it can be collected at the end of the day by the student. The third time it will need to be collected by a parent or guardian. So a very simple policy. It actually mirrors what the middle school already does. So it kind of transfers right up into our high school as well. We've gotten some feedback on it from students, and honestly, there hasn't been much. Headphones have been the only issue, where we have a couple of students that just have maybe a little bit of anxiety or just kind of need that something to distract them. So we're just working through some plans with maybe like a 504 or something specific for them. Otherwise, honestly, we haven't heard much for feedback on it because we have been kind of piloting it for a couple of days until it's been approved.
Have you had any parents reach out?
None.
How do we communicate the change?
So we pushed it out. So we actually had talked about it well before break. So we had pushed it out ahead of time, just kind of getting it out. You know how kids are, word of mouth. That means everything. We just leaked it out there. We talked to all of our staff, gave them the resources how to do it. Some conversations were started with students. And then that first day we came back from break, since that was the day we were going to start it, just kind of pilot through it. We had every single teacher at the beginning of every period basically go through their cell phone expectations. It is a little unique. There are some teachers that do need it. We just kind of set some expectations. Our teachers, like our Spanish classrooms, do use it frequently. So we asked them to go through and like, hey, put signs on the board that says, today you can use your cell phone. Today you can't use your cell phone, just for visual indicators.
It also went out here.
Yeah, our newsletter too. Yep. It was well known. Other questions?
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Brian Jurens and administration to amend the secondary handbook to include the presented changes.
Okay. A second. Been moved and seconded to approve Brian Jurens and administration to amend the secondary handbook to include the presented changes. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion passes 5-0. Yeah. Okay, and you're up again.
Back to back. You can open mine up. Yep. Okay, very similar to Joe, just give you guys kind of a mid-year update. This is a little bit of a snapshot of stuff we've done, stuff we plan on doing, just because it's kind of that unique mid-year point for us. We decided just to combine because some of our goals at the high school relate directly into the innovative campus, which she'll be talking to. A lot of our data is probably a little bit more geared that way, just because a big part of our goal this year is that recovery, trying to fix our graduation rate, go after some of those components. So go ahead, Zach. I'll jump right into it. We actually have 4 goals. Thank you. We have 4 goals in our strategic plan. They're pretty obvious high school goals. So our goal number 1 is all built around the graduation rate. So we need to address our graduation rate. It's a little bit lower. We kind of have some specifics that I'll go through later, as well as that's the involvement in our innovative campus. Goal 2 is increase the number of students proficient on the Iowa assessment, the ISAS, by increasing rigor and alignment of instruction. Goal 3 is increase in ACT scores. We chose those 2, goal 2 and 3, because those are basically our biggest indicators. Goal number 1 is also a big one. Those are our public indicators. Those are what determine our effectiveness as a school. So we want to make sure we're keeping track of, hey, if this is a thing we're being judged on, we want to make sure it's a big component of what we do. Goal number 4, very similar. Joe talked about that one. Our conditions of learning survey, focus on those scores. I want to point out goal 1 versus goal 2 and 3. There's actually a tension point there. We're very purposeful in making sure we have goals like that. Goal number 1 being graduation rate. As a high school, it's actually very simple for me to fix the graduation rate. How do I fix it? I make school really, really easy, right? If I make it so nobody fails and nobody has to try, guess what ends up happening? Everybody graduates, right? But on the other side of that spectrum is goal 2 and 3, which are obviously around the achievement. So we want to make sure we have a balance between those goals, because we want a high graduation rate, but we also want our kids achieving at high levels. It's almost a tension point at all times. That's why those things sometimes compete with each other. Go ahead, sir. Goal number 1, so it's our graduation rate. So one of the biggest things we're doing is through the tracking and progress monitoring of credit recovery, or who needs credit recovery programs, as well as that's where the innovative campus comes in. One of the biggest things we've implemented is one-on-one scheduling with students. So anybody who's especially that junior, senior level, we're meeting more with you one-on-one throughout your senior year or throughout your junior year to make sure you're getting into classes you need. That's when those conversations are happening around what their current credit requirement is or where their track is. That's also one of the ideal times where kids start to get identified, is like, hey, we were just talking, like we have a sophomore that's sitting at 14 credits right now. So it's like, if you're sitting at 14 credits, we have a lot of work to do with you. We need to get you caught up. We need to make an individualized plan, which is really that second bullet up there. Really spending the time to create individualized plans for all of our students who are at risk of not graduating. She's got a little bit of data of some kids who are already getting bumped into our innovative campus. A big one she'll talk about is the innovative campus, just kind of establishing a purpose behind it. It was nice during COVID to have that alternative location, right, when it was the School to You program. However, the innovative campus serves a little better purpose for us as a credit recovery program, because we do have students who unfortunately are behind. And up here, when you're in the main building, you're only given 8 credits a month or 8 credits a semester. There's no more credits unless you're in some sort of a different program. Our referral process, which I think she talks a little bit about. Yep. So you're just talking about the referral process, parent meetings, and then obviously just dropout prevention as a whole. That's just kind of been our focus around that. We've seen a spike in some of our dropouts, so we're going after that. That's a little bit of a product of COVID, but it's just wrapping around some of those supports. I know Jenna Hagelin's been a huge resource for us, being our social worker, being able to reach out. Attendance mediations are another place we're really trying to get after our kids as we lose them, just try to keep on to them a little bit more. Goal number 2, proficiency. So this is just increasing our ISAS scores. One of the biggest things we did at the beginning of the year was just going through all of our curriculums, everything we're doing, and just reviewing and checking the alignment to our ISAS data. All of our ISAS scores gives us like, hey, here's the curriculum, or here's the standards that are being used. Let's make sure we're actually teaching the correct standards. Let's make sure we're spending the appropriate amount of time on each one. It does change a little bit every single year, but for the most part, you are given an idea of like, hey, we should be spending more time here and less time here because this is our measurement device. Our advisory time, so that's a 30-minute period right in between second and third hour. We transitioned to that being more of a formal intervention time. So we use a program called FlexiSchedule. Our students are allowed to choose where they want to go during that time, Tuesday through Friday, just to get additional help from teachers. We always set a goal every single day. We call it defaults. Kids who don't register, they get defaulted back to their traditional advisory. We set a goal to have the least amount of defaults as we do. Typically, a good default number for us is anywhere between about 50 and below 50 or 60. We do hit that pretty regularly. It just kind of depends, honestly, the time of the year. The end of the semester gets pretty busy. A lot of kids want to go talk to teachers. Right now, the first week in a semester, our kids are not necessarily going in as much as they were before. Curriculum adoption, that's obviously a big one. Science is one we're pushing right now. Obviously, just we need to kind of keep updating and get more of a process. Jen's helping a ton with those ones. Building-wide grading policies to reduce grade inflation. So this is that challenge of high school. We were a very grade inflated school. The best way to look at it is your grade should at least have a similar outcome or a similar score to your proficiencies. And we have a lot of kids that unfortunately had maybe A's and were not proficient in areas. And that's just kind of that false indicator, that false reality for a kid, not really encouraging them to move. So we've done a lot of work around our grading policies just to try to unify them across our building, as well as focus in on some specific areas. That way, so our teachers are giving correct feedback and they're giving more real feedback to keep our students to understand what their actual level is. Finally, MAPS data. Joe talked a little bit about that, so I'm not going to go into it much. That's one we're transitioning to for this next semester. Now that we have that second source of MAPS data coming up in the next week, and then that increased rigor in DOK has been one that's honestly been a couple years, but that is a huge part of this. The ISAS, one of the biggest difference between the ISAS and the Iowa assessment, our previous test is it has a higher DOK level. So DOK level would be like how you use the knowledge you have. If I can just recite the information versus I had to take the information and actually do something with it. The ISASP is a lot more focused on actually deciphering and using information rather than just recalling the information. So we're having to kind of push, hey, in your class, I need our kids to be able to actually do something with it. Goal 3. ACT scores. This one's honestly kind of redundant to goal number 2. We really thought about combining the two of them together, but I just felt like it was important. In a way, it does target different students, which is why we decided to keep them separate. ACT scores, a lot of the same things with that increased rigor in DOK that I just talked about. A lot of pretty much everything on that goal 2 will help this ACT score. However, we have some goals. We're actually starting them this semester since that's when our kids take the ACTs a little more readily. Get some specific test prep during advisory, start to do some tracking and goal setting with our students on ACT scores. And then also that last one, that's, you've heard me talk pathways over the years, just making sure our kids are going into courses that are going to advance them at that higher level. ACT is a lot like that ISAS, where it's got that higher level of knowledge that they need to have to be able to score high. We want to make sure we're supporting our kids in those areas. Our ACT scores, we're very fortunate. We've seen increase. We've seen a lot of increase or getting it going in the right direction, especially our students who are taking it over and over, because a lot of our students do take it more. Goal 4. So this is that conditions of learning survey, which Joe talked about. State, it's a survey that we have to give once a year. Our conditions for learning survey was atrocious. I'll be honest. It was very embarrassing. It was one that we kind of knew was going to look that way. We have a hard balance here at the high school where as we push students, right, we want to push them the highest abilities they can. Unfortunately, that does sometimes hurt our culture, and we knew that was happening. So we spent some time doing a team review of our survey data. It gives us a ton of information. Based on that information, we did a lot of perception. We knew there was a huge piece like going on with what a teacher's role, what a student's role is, how they can perceive each other. There was a focus group that was put out that really is kind of interesting. The focus group, it was like the students themselves were like, yeah, the students are not nice to your teachers up here, right? And it's like, oh, okay, so there's very much a mutual feeling. So how do we start to correct it? One of my counselors brought a character strong curriculum, which we have the intention of implementing it. We have not implemented it yet into second semester, just something that's focused on getting that understanding of roles, right? That's why I would say getting that understanding of perceptions. That was so they can start to see like, hey, this is the role of this person. This is the role of me. This is how we can function together. I feel like, unfortunately, that definition of what a good teacher is evolved a little bit, as well as what a good student is. And we need to make sure we're educating around that. Last couple of things for survey data for snapshots, just something we can keep doing. And I don't remember the last one. Focus on positive perception. So that's just getting a little bit more of a push into second semester of like, let's get good information. Let's get the right information out there. That way so they know what's going on.
Okay, so like Mr. Duran said, a lot of the things with the innovative campus are going to tie into goal 1 for the high school. So really looking at credits, looking at getting students ready for graduation. So just some information that I wanted to share data wise. the innovative campus is kind of split up into two different sectors, I guess. We have Cary Lane Alternative High School, and then we also have the Flex program. We've really this year tried to look at both of those programs as just extensions of the high school and extensions of programs that we already have, as opposed to looking at them as two completely separate domains. So Cary Lane is currently serving 31 students, including 4 students who have added in for this spring semester. During the fall of 2022, the students at Cary Lane completed 115 credits, and that was compared to 108 during the entire school year last year. So they have already completed more so far this year than they did all of last year. Part of that, Mr. Jurens referred to that referral process that we have. We have a really, I don't want to maybe use the word strict, but kind of a strict referral process into Cary Lane and into the Flex program, where it really goes through me, through the counselors, through extensive meetings with the students, extensive meetings with the parents, to figure out what the best plan is going to be for each student. Cary Lane does have certain requirements that Flex doesn't. Students do have to already earn 20 credits to get accepted into the Cary Lane program. And they also have to be a junior in order to get in there. And then they have an interview with Mr. Dean, just to kind of see, so that he can feel them out for what is your plan? Why is it that you want to be here? Why do you think this would be a good fit for you? And then we kind of make that determination with the entire team to see whether that student will attend Cary Lane or not. We do currently have 11, Mr. Dean said 11 to 15 students who are on track to graduate on time with their class in May of 2023. We do also have probably 4 students currently at Cary Lane who will be on track to achieve their credits maybe fall of 23 or spring of 24. And just like I said before, we're serving 31 students. We're pretty evenly split right now between juniors and seniors. So really good success so far for Cary Lane. Jose, can you go to the next? Thank you. At the Flex program. So a big issue that we had last year with the Flex program was that it was like this person was accepting people in and this person was accepting people in and this person was accepting people in. And every once in a while it was like, hold on a second, how did you get in here? What's the reasoning? What's the purpose? What's going on? So we've really streamlined that process this year too. It's very similar to the Cary Lane process. If a student or a parent is interested in a student attending the Flex program, that directly goes through me at the high school, bringing in counselors, bringing in parents, bringing in the student, again, to figure out their best plan. The really cool thing about the Flex program is that there are many different facets. We have quite a few students, let's see, okay, these are where my numbers are at, sorry. We have 33 students who are currently attending either 100% in person at Flex or are hybrid between Flex and the high school. So what that means is they may be choosing to take their core classes through the Flex program and then attending the high school maybe for some of their elective classes. Or maybe they're only in orchestra at the high school and then they attend Flex Center for the rest of their classes. So we're making that an option for kids so that they can get the credits that they need where they need them. We are also, and this is an aspect of the Flex program that a lot of people don't realize, we are serving 31 students through the Flex program who are 100% doing virtual learning from home. So they never actually attend at the Flex Center. They never actually attend at the high school. They are 100% virtual from home. And part of what Mr. Gable, Mrs. Schmidt, Mrs. Molstead, are doing at the Flex Center is every single one of those students who is virtual, they are doing at least one online Zoom meeting with those students every single week to catch them up on their goals, to figure out how much class progress they have made throughout the week, to figure out where they need to go. We have 10 students with IEPs that are being served at Flex right now.
There are 13 seniors currently on track to graduate. And then in the fall, there were 341 total credits completed, and that's only those online credits that were completed. Mr. Gable has done a really awesome job down there of when we talk about parent involvement and that sort of thing. That's something that has really increased at the Innovative Campus this year. Between Mr. Gable, Mrs. Schmidt, Mr. Dean, Mrs. Molstead, there are constant text messages, phone calls, that sort of thing, going out to parents, going out to students, letting them know like, hey, your student completed 22% of a class today, like they rocked it. Hey, they only completed 5% today. Let's kind of kick it in gear. So there's a lot of parental involvement down there. There's also a lot of, hey, maybe this isn't working for my kid quite right. Can we call in a meeting and figure out, do we need to go virtual? Do we need to maybe be more in person? So just being, we kind of joked last year, like the name of it is flex, and we do really have to be very, very flexible with the students and with the families down there in order to meet that goal, obviously, of graduating and meeting the credits that we need to meet.
Any questions for us?
So the online learning is not homeschooling.
No,
You're
homeschooling
just at home.
Yep, HSAP is the homeschool assistance program, and that is separate. Yep. And then when the students are 100% virtual from home, like I said, they can be meeting with, they'll have their set time that they meet with one of the teachers from Flex over Zoom. But at any time during the week, they know that they are also always welcome to come in person. If they do have questions, they always know that they can call down there. So it's not that they only have that Zoom meeting every week. They also know that they have those other options for help or assistance if they need it.
Do those students take that standardized test that they were told?
Yep, I said.
Yep.
When is that gonna be given next?
April is usually the window, right?
Do they take math? Do they do math?
Yes.
So the math testing, mid-year math testing is coming up next week. Right.
Quick question, the parent line for 30 students for this year, and they did 115 credits in the fall. How many students were last year?
I'm sorry, how many?
How many students do we have in fall of 21?
I do believe that we ended fall of 21.
Mhm.
I would have to ask Josh that number. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't know what that number was.
I don't think it was quite 30. My guess is it's probably mid-20.
And then another question I had is, so some of the other things that we have, like the option to take 9 classes for current enrollment, the option to be part of the CAS program. Are the students at Flex and Carolina, are they offered those options, and are they eligible to participate in them? And if so, are there thresholds for them to join them?
Yes, the big part of a lot of the students that we have at the Flex program is that credit recovery piece. So looking at some of our students that, maybe we have a kid who is starting their junior year who currently only has credit-wise the number that a freshman should have. The first thing that we focus on, obviously, is getting them up to grade level and up to speed on where they need to be for their grade level. And then we start to look at some of those electives. They are able to choose electives. I know we have one student who's a junior who is caught up on his credits because of what he achieved over the summer and then in the fall. So he's actually choosing to do his electives up at the high school this semester. But those would be available to them just like any other high school student.
So what I'm hearing you say is they need to first get their credits back to where they have credits before they're eligible to take things. So if they're really passionate about ag or some other program, they're eligible to do those things, but they first have to get to the level that they should be at based on where they're at in grade level, and then they can.
We try to focus always on that core first. So if you are deficient in English credits, we're gonna try to always get that done first, because that's the state requirement. The electives are pretty flexible, plus that's where Carrie Lane, like, we know we always have Carrie Lane to help if we need it.
Okay. And then, Ms. Phelps, you had mentioned that the transition plan is really with you and the counselors. Can the students also say, this isn't a good fit for me, I'd like to try something different?
Yes, and they do, and as of right now, we actually, I should have mentioned this before, we actually have a waiting list for the Flex program right now.
Okay.
Because for every student that's enrolled in the Flex program, there's obviously, their work is online, but all of that work still has to be corrected and returned to them, and that, so it's a heavy workload for the number of staff members that we have down there. So we do currently have a waiting list of 14 students. Actually changed that to 15 because I literally got an email from a parent like 5 minutes ago saying, hey, I want to talk to you about my student going here. So we do already have a waiting list of students to be able to go down there once we are able to look at how many students we have graduate out, what some of the students decide to do as far as taking electives next fall at the high school versus at the Flex program. We do also have some of the students in the Flex program that are on what we're calling the Carey Lane track. So it's students who know that they want to go to Carey Lane, but they maybe don't have that 20 credit mark met yet. So they might only be at the Flex program through the middle of the semester. And then once they earn those credits that they need, they'll be able to go to Carey Lane. So we do already have that waiting list. So yes, students are able to advocate for themselves to decide if they want to go there or not. And then we bring in more of that team approach to figure out what is going to be the best fit.
So would they be eligible even if they're all caught up on their stuff?
Some, yes, we do have some that have chosen to do that just for like smaller environment. I want to be able to work at my own pace, that sort of thing. So yes, we do have a few that are down there for that reason. Yep.
Questions?
No, I'm impressed with the number of credits that they've done.
They've done some really good stuff down there.
Yeah, I can see it like tightened up a little bit.
It is. It is.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Enrollment monthly seat count summary.
So it's been requested that we have some additional information for you on an enrollment summary. You have before you, or rather you have included a green and white sheet. You can see month by month, all through last year and this year, information that the district keeps on students that are coming or going. Generally speaking, you can say we had about 130 students who were with us at the end of last year. 64 of those left. And we have the additional 66 that have come in for us. So generally speaking, about 7% of those students homeschool. 49 of them, or 38%, moved. 4% were put in placement. 0.5% graduated. 1.5% dropped. 10% moved. And 53 or 41% open enrolled. And 11 or 8.5% went over to IC. So we can continue to bring this to you on a month by month basis if that's helpful. There was a question about students that might have left from before winter break until after winter break. And it looks like we had 4 that left to join the virtual academy, 7 open enrolled out, and 4 moved away. Currently, we have 58 students enrolling out and 58 students enrolling in.
54 out of 58.
So it's even 58 enroll out and 58 enroll in.
And with rare exception, we've been slightly higher students that might enroll in than enroll out. So we could call that to the positive. Your data looks like it's been to the positive. With an exception of a few years back, it was maybe 3 or 4 students in the other direction. Today, it's exactly even. Because the open enrollment law has changed, students can enroll in or out any day at any time. So that's a much more fluid number than it was.
So the in and out is pulled daily, so that's really not different than we were seeing all the.
It'll be slightly different. So we keep a master of enrollment, then we have and those who transfer out specific, we have another document for those who drop. We have another document for open enrolling in and out. This one, I think you'll see as the more standardized version that captures. Many of these are kept by multiple secretaries and multiple buildings. This, on the other hand, is a single measure. So you'll see this one each month. That was something we thought would be helpful. Questions?
Is there any rationale that we're gathering from the 58 that came out to the 58 that came in?
We did a survey in the fall. We only received 3 responses, and all 50, well, 58 weren't surveyed. At that time, there were probably 38 or 40. Because it was administered in like September, October, right after the start of the year. We only received 3 responses to the survey, and there were multiple attempts to say, why? Because I'm curious, why would you even go somewhere? Those 3 said that they either worked in that area or had childcare in that area or had a temporary living, it was just easier for their students to ride with them in that area. So that honestly wasn't very helpful. Sure.
Can you explain the difference between seat count and what we certify?
Yes, you, in fact, would be a great one to talk about that. Seat count are seats in seats. Certified enrollment has to do with weighting. So for example, we receive some weight for students that enroll from IC. We might get a portion of a homeschool student who might dual enroll. Seats in seats are actual individual students that are with us on the given day.
Special ed has a different weighting too.
Yes, and those numbers will come to us about 6 weeks after the count date. So we look for those more in December. So students that have significant needs will be weighed more than 3 times than one student weight might be for a student that did not have input. Others might only be maybe another half, 3/4 point higher. Also, students that speak English as a second language. They're not native English speakers. We receive an extra bit of weighting for those students as well. So it's very complicated.
Do you know historically, and I don't know who necessarily has the answer to this, have we ever detailed specific reasons as to why students open enroll in and out?
We don't have in this district, no. Typically, we have exit interviews, and so that is something that we were in the process of implementing just before the 1st of December. That project is temporarily halted because that person is out on leave that was designing that survey. But typically, we would have an exit interview and say, why are you choosing to open enroll? Then the nice part about Iowa is we have choice. We have choices like non-public schools. We have choices like open enrollment. We want every student to flourish, and quite frankly, that's why some students choose to come here, and we have a number that do. Typically, a parent would look at the public information available online. I recently gave a lunch and learn and had about 20 participants come to learn and see how the Iowa school performance profiles are helpful. And they provide information. You heard some of the school leaders mention tonight where they're using some of those data points. I'd be happy to give a more detailed overview of that.
for everyone here. What I will provide when we visit on the 17th is not only some additional rationale at our work session for the recommendations that came forward from the senior leaders, everything from operations to staff positions, but we'll also get a snapshot at some of our ISAS data as compared to neighboring school districts. A parent would be wise to look at the student achievement in a district if they're making a choice about whether to open enroll a student in or out. Naturally, academics would be a number one priority. I perhaps maybe tied with some other reasoning. But so I'll be collecting some of that data to share with you as well.
I guess it's just kind of, I think, just knowing my experience when I was a counselor, those conversations are always happening with students. I think part of the clinch is with the new legislation passed, enrollment can happen at any day. So that sometimes the conversations just happen overnight. But I'm guessing there's conversations that are happening in the school buildings, whether it's with the counseling staff or with the principals between some of these families, where we're wanting to keep these students. It's not just that they're choosing.
Right. And some parents I've noticed are very thoughtful, and it takes a considerable amount of time for them to determine to leave their home school district. You have to provide your own transportation. It can be a hardship for some families. It's an added danger if you have a new young driver who might be 16 or 17 years old and they're driving to school in a neighboring district in all types of conditions. So the transportation could be a concern, perhaps a barrier in some cases. But there are a lot of factors to consider. Some families, on the other hand, make the decision very quickly. School principals tell me they have some students that have come in and gone out, come back in, or come on into a virtual program all even yet so far this year. So they've made multiple decisions. Those decisions I would suspect are not made over a period of time thoughtfully, while others I'm noticing were made over a period of weeks or months.
I think it's helpful just to have this going forward with these numbers, just for our community to see.
It's important to keep our enrollment up naturally for all the right reasons. I'd love to see 100% of our students having all of their needs met here in the school district, have none of them have to go out to another district. That may not be feasible, at least in the 3 cases I talked about where it was job or childcare issues that kept them on the move that way, but it's always a personal decision. And then for those students that open enroll in, we hope that we're providing the best education for them as well. Again, we'll have more information on the 17th at your work session, I think.
Okay. Thank you. Number 17, public policy 213, public comments revision. 16, sorry. Oh, missed it. Tentative board meeting date change, sorry. This is just, I just want to open the discussion. The board of directors will discuss moving the January 23rd, 2023 board meeting to a different date due to the hosting of a jazz festival in our district. So I'm opening it for discussion.
I'm gonna be out of town the 24th to the 1st.
24th through the 4th. First, you're gonna be out of town.
I have a work thing from the 24th through the 27th that I made last year, so if we change the meeting, we actually pick a day before.
What if we move it up in time, the same day, earlier in the day? We've done that for concerts before.
What time does?
Jake can get a person and visit.
That's rehearsal.
And we'll say ours that afternoon.
Yeah, because initially it was, the board policy states that you have this meetings the 2nd and the 4th Mondays of each month, right? That's why the 9th and the 23rd were initially, or the 23rd, that was initially thrown out. But given we have a full district jazz festival, that's a rare circumstance. So Might just be a busy district day.
State jazz.
They even better. A lot of kids coming in.
Well, we can't have it too much sooner because we have our work session on the 17th.
No, I don't mean, I mean that day.
Like have it 4 or something.
No.
That's an all day thing.
I just
right?
don't know what time.
It starts
Yeah,
mid-afternoon.
that's what I thought.
Yeah,
I
you
think
can't.
that makes a difference.
And then if we wanted the community to, maybe they don't
On
want to
the
leave.
calendar, it's 12 a.m.
Yes.
12 a.m. to 12 a.m.
That's what it is on the
It probably just blocked off the day.
The official schedule's not been released yet by the state.
Also, the state issued. schedule.
Yeah, it's an HSMA event.
Gee, they should let us know a little bit in advance.
Well, we knew.
We used to know the schedule.
It was brought up at the. Yes, it was brought
Yeah.
up at that meeting that was there.
Yeah, I know.
A couple people
Right.
asked about that. That night.
But you're scheduled maybe 6 months to a year in advance.
This is our regular meeting, which is
Early
why.
in the day, and they're not talking about staff reviews. Is it still going to be at the fairgrounds?
At the Pay Enrichment Center. Yeah.
But if. Okay, so if David and Josh. Dr. Sherrill can't be here from the 24th to the 1st. Josh can't, well, we do, 3 of us, but I don't think that's really fair for only 3 of us to be here. You know,
Yeah, no, I agree.
so it'd have to be after the 1st of February, so it would have to be moved to,
I'll be gone the 1st through the 11th.
What?
and you're gone when?
1 through 11.
Okay, so it can't be anywhere between the 24th and the 11th of February.
The 11th or the back on the 11th.
And I'll be having baby on the. Be determined.
Around that time,
Both of you.
Oh, and she's due.
around that time,
The 16th.
February? Yeah. Kind of close.
I need David here in case. Okay, could we move it to the 20th? Can you do a Friday meeting?
Well, so we have packed gym night, that was.
Oh, yeah.
What about the 19th?
Thursday.
Sorry.
Can't do Thursday.
You just can't do Thursday.
And how important is it? There might be other things that keep people, other events.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. That's why why we have our meetings that I've done, it's just that we.
Would it,
They are.
could we move it to 7:50? Could we move it later that evening?
No.
I don't think it's different, I think today is because of the jet gen, so.
And it has to be at the meeting. Okay.
Yeah,
But we're not, this all day. Coach.
We're not voting on a coach. I think that's the whole reason this is
Right.
to the public and to them.
I know you are, but doesn't have some kind of suggest.
I'm gonna
She's
say
calling
that.
Jane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, come and go. They're everywhere in this building.
Well, that's why we were looking at the original.
Thanks very much. 3 to 9:30.
Yeah.
3 p.m. 9:30 p.m.
But it's not here, right? No, it's out at.
Out at the
interfere.
The jazz, the state jazz is here. Enrichment will be at the-
All for that.
6:30 in the morning on the 23rd.
Not here.
Of course they want to see. You're kidding, Pat.
I am, but I'm not really.
I
mean,
Let's go, I'll do that, sure.
I would too, but
That's Sunday night.
I have to get up. Don't
Wait,
I?
Why not next week?
or not?
Why not just combine the
I
planning
don't know.
session and the
I think there's no
meeting?
reason-
I'm gonna be gone.
So, yeah.
So why don't you have it next week? Same time as your planning session?
That'll be the first time we've heard anything about it.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not
Yeah,
sure
that's
we're gonna be
first, and then you could have-
discussing-
There's been a lot of process, just,
I think we
we
need.
don't wanna overwhelm our.
That's Sunday, the 22nd.
I'm gonna be gone.
So I wonder what midday would look like. You did that like 2 in the afternoon.
No.
No.
Public event. Yes, they would.
What's the reasoning why it can't be just
put in February of all the days in
Yes,
January?
because it would be, well, it could be, but it would have to be
Well, our February board meeting is the 13th, and the first available day is the 12th.
So couldn't it just be moved to that next meeting?
the 13th.
So we,
Down the road.
so maybe the issue is we could still have the meeting on the 23rd, but we wouldn't address staff adjustments until mid-February.
Ah,
Now we're getting a month out from
Yeah.
contrast. But
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think we should take,
What happens if you
done
can't
this
be there?
before, the
Yeah.
can down the road.
I think we need to get through it.
Oh, we all-
That's what I said. Why can't you have it? Should have been 19.
Well, I think. I'm just gonna say that at the workshop, while no decisions will be made. At the work session. I think people will have a pretty good idea of what direction it's going. Don't you
A
think?
lot of information will be shared.
So then what's, I guess I don't understand, if that meeting works for people. It would.
You're saying the 23rd will not be surprises because of all of the.
There won't be any surprises at the 23rd, I don't think.
But right now.
In other words, you're gonna
that they still have that night to come speak on their own behalf when it directly affects them before you make the vote. Well, we're taking public comment now out of form. Why don't we just do it forever that night? Yeah.
I know, we're not supposed to be doing.
Well,
it
what?
now.
That's right, this is.
Right, we're done. Okay, we have to decide. What we're doing on the 23rd. You guys discuss. Everybody's gonna be gone until the 13th.
But it doesn't sound like we can change it.
I'll make a motion that we leave the schedule as it's currently published.
One second.
Been moved and seconded to leave the board meeting schedule as currently published. All those in favor say aye. Oh, yeah, any more discussion? We gotta have more discussion. Nope. Do you want a roll call vote? Yes. No, I don't think so. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes 5-0. So leave it the same. Okay, policy 213, public comments revision. I'm gonna start talking because after the December 12th meeting, I happened to look at the policy on public comment and it said that citizens wishing to address the board during public comment must notify the board secretary prior to the board meeting. That was the past, so that's our current policy. And I said to Evan, gosh, we're not doing that. Let's not make it harder for people. Let's just cross that out because that's not what we're following. We're letting people talk whenever they want to. So talked about it. And then he came up with this. This is the new revised schedule with the petition language at the bottom. That's put out by the state because of the last legislative session. This is what was passed. So that it gives community members, which they didn't have before, a way to petition the board to force something to be on an agenda. And this is what was passed in the legislative session. And I probably don't like this language any better than anybody else does, you know, but
Well, I wanted to give you guys an update on that. It says for a petition to be valid, it must be signed by at least 500 people or 10% of them individuals who voted in the last school election. That's 178 signatures is what we would be required.
178 is what we're required.
If we do 10% based on the last election, we had 1,776 voters.
Then why do we have to join?
It's 25% for a bond petition and 10% for petition to the board.
Okay, so it's really, what is the number?
178.
170.
It's actually 177.7.
Okay, so
And isn't it also
10%.
fair to say that if the board is open to any feedback from any of their constituents about topics they need information on, or that they'd like to be discussed, that the petition language isn't required if a board member is convinced for some reason, within your role, that you want to add something to the board. So, for example, the board wanted reports from the school leaders at the secondary level, and so we added those.
Right.
Would it be fair to say if you heard from your constituents about an important topic, that you would entertain that without this excess?
Sure. if
This
any of
is
us
for
are-
anyone who might, a board that might be resistant to speak about a topic. This petition language would allow them authority to get it on there, even if there wasn't any desire by elected officials to put it there. Would that be fair to say,
That
Evan
is
and Pat?
That's fair.
So is
And
this,
so that's how this whole thing came up though, is because I was trying to make it. Take out the language of adding this, of having to contact the secretary, because we're not following it, and it does make it easier for people to talk at the board. And that's why. This, we already had this, eventually we would have had to pass this. We should have probably have already done it, right? But that's, if you're gonna revise a policy, you have to do it by what they've sent us to revise it by.
so just some, so historically, was this passed by the legislator because up to this point, there was not even a way for constituents to address a public entity?
I
Wanted
have-
more clear language on how to petition the board. They've always been eligible to petition the board, but it wasn't spelled out on what was required. In our policies, saying if you didn't read Iowa code, that meant that's.
No, I think this was just brought up last session. I remember them talking about it. But I may be wrong. So anyway. Is there any other conversation about this? I just wanted you to be clear how it came up. And we have had a conversation, albeit not an official committee. So,
It is.
huh?
But okay, I'm not supposed to talk, but I'm going to tell you that when we got bowling, there were other issues. When we wanted bowling, people came to the board and wanted to put on the agenda that we wanted to have a bowling
Is there any
program.
other discussion?
When we wanted to have, we wanted to give letters to our shooting club. They came and asked to have it put on the agenda. It has happened before. That's all I'm saying. Pat, would it be helpful if I were to explain that you could be asked to put anything on an agenda anytime, but that if any one of the five of you was reluctant to accept someone's request, like bowling, they could then petition and force your hand. Is that what you would say that?
But you wanted to go
get 178?
That's correct. If they want.
Only if the board wasn't responsive would they be required to go get the petitions. Isn't that correct?
Evan, can I ask a question because I cannot remember? Am I allowed to make public comment during an agenda item or is it
No.
only during the?
No, that's our next policy.
I know.
I just wasn't sure. I was trying to look it up, so I just wanted to know.
Okay, it's on your agenda. Okay,
One amendment I would add to that kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the meeting, is if we do have constituents and citizens that want to make public comment, we want to be able to follow up with them, and so I would like to make the amendment to have some type of contact information, whether that be a name or phone number or address, just so we can follow up.
well, we did, because we revised.
So you'd like that written into the policy that we sign in
Correct.
at the meeting to.
Yeah.
We have contact.
I wonder, with something like this, where citizens wishing to address the board during public comment will sign in with name, address, and phone number on the sheet provided at the meeting prior to the board meeting.
And that way, so we know that they're in the district.
Right, and then we can contact people if we need to, or, yeah. Would that be okay?
Are you making a motion?
What do you want to
I was trying to add that at the beginning of this.
This is wishing to.
I got it.
Okay.
So that language would be in there, is anybody? Is there,
I guess the other question I have too is, the community member doesn't just have to use the public comment or public forum part of a meeting to reach out to the board.
no,
They can email or call at any time. Maybe
yeah,
other numbers or. they
I
call
even have my phone number in the phone book, so they can call me on my home phone if they don't have my cell phone.
Other option would be to have a written statement presented in advance to any one of the board members and ask that it be read in their absence, and I think you saw some of that last month. So for those that might not be there, if they have something, that'd be another.
And a motion to approve the policy as amended.
I'll make a motion to approve the policy as
The
amended.
revisions to policy right here.
Exactly what is it? Which one?
The revisions are making are crossing out the board secretary.
Right,
The revisions are making are crossing out the board secretary
right.
and adding in the contact.
The additional
Contact
petition.
Oh, and then the
Right, but
Yeah, it's gonna do it.
I can't make, if I made it. You have to-
you make the motion.
I make a motion to approve the amendments added to the original. No.
Yeah,
This one, yeah, to approve the revisions to policy 213 public comments and waive the second reading to implement immediately.
is there a second? Been moved and seconded to approve the revisions to policy 213 public comments and waive the second reading to implement immediately. Is there further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passes 5-0. And the next agenda item is consideration or the what? Policy 210.4 work session policy review.
Currently, there are no revisions on this policy, so it's just for review.
As they were similar. So it would be, does anybody have any revisions? Okay, so to approve.
To approve the policy as written, policy 210.4 for work sessions, that's right.
There's a second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the review of policy 210.4 work session as written. All those, is there any other discussion?
Do you guys want to bring this back for a second?
Oh, do you want to bring it back for a second meeting?
We're not changing it.
No.
So we don't have to. Change it, right?
Good catch.
Just step.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the review of policy 210.4 work session. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes 5-0. Is there a motion to approve the amended consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda, sorry, the consent agenda as amended.
A second?
Been moved and seconded to approve the amended the consent agenda as amended. Discussion? What? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Passes 5-0. This time, there's an opportunity for any board member who would.
So I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So, food service is an important thing going on in the district. Superintendent, with that, how I would just bring this up is, we know we have a change coming up. it's a big deal. Have we heard from our provider on how they're gonna handle that or what they will do to make sure that we have continuity? Because I think we have to the end of next year, right?
The individual's final day is later this month.
Oh.
But I believe that, as last understood, they were in the process of filling that position.
That's awesome.
And they're working closely with Paige Ellsburn, our program director.
Great, thank you so much.
Mhm.
And we're open for this year as well.
All that, I would,
Yeah, so January 12th, we start the RFP process for the food service. So that's what I meant.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Any other comments? The meeting is adjourned at 20.